Buying clothes has never been easier. 80 billion items are manufactured every year.
We're putting too much product out there, most of that product ending up in landfill.
So-called fast fashion allows consumers to buy more, but they're wearing these garments less often and disposing of them at an unprecedented rate.
The thesis statement of the article analysis is due to the constant rise of trends in the fashion industry. The public often resort to the fast fashion and it becomes the main source to this high demand of textile consumption. Albeit the market satisfaction is attained, other aspects such as the environment, health and society could potentially be harmed in the making.
For the first point, in terms of society, GC 2018 stated that most of the garment workers who manufacture the fast fashion clothing are often underpaid. Fast fashion presents an ethical dilemma concerning the injustice garment workers must face as a result of poor wages. In fact, 80% of textile workers earn below the minimum wages, receiving 2 to 6 cents for every pieces of clothing. Not to mention, despite most employees working over 16 hours a week, they do not receive overtime payment. Employer will set a relatively high target or quota to the garment workers and they need to reach the target or the quota in order to get paid, and if they are not able to reach the target, they will be forced to stay longer to work in order to fulfill the target. It is stated by Maxwell in 2014. They are also not able to voice this out because whatever they voice this out will suffer more. There is a news and the title Fast Fashion: The Danger of Sweatshop established in October 10, 2022 by Li Guiyan stated that the fast fashion industry tend to establish exploit and underpaid work in inhuman condition. A sweatshop refers to a typical tiny manufacturing establishment employing workers under unfair and unhygienic working conditions. The fast fashion industry has long been conflict in a system that pays workers below subsistence in order to maximize profits. In order to manufacture things quickly and inexpensively, sweatshop workers, often women and children, suffer grueling workdays and meager pay that does not cover basic expenses while offering them cruel working and living circumstances. In several manufacturing nations, including Bangladesh, China, and India, the minimum wage only covers half of fifth of what a family needs to make ends meet. In Bangladesh, workers are paid about 33 cents per hour while the average wage in sweatshop in India is barely 58 cents. Working conditions are poor, unhygienic and unsafe since a large number of sweatshops are located in poor nations with weak labor laws and little government control. As a result, if workers attempt to challenge their rights or work conditions, they risk losing their jobs. Workers in the garment industry are required to put in 14 to 16 hours per day, 7 days a week, and endure verbal and sometimes even physical abuse from managers. Oftentimes, workers are exposed to harmful substances while working without enough ventilation. I'll pass the next one to next presenter.
Good day to everyone. My name is Muhammad Shafiq bin JOHARI and I will continue the presentation with main idea 2. So, main idea 2 is according to Chi 2018 as cited in Kim 2013, society is deeply worried concerning child workers. The supporting details for this main idea are as follows. Firstly, employers want to recruit youngsters simply because they are easier to govern than the adults. This is true because the minors usually are scared of the adults and would obey anything that they say. The second supporting detail is, most notably, minors are usually paid less than the adults while approximately producing the same amount of labor as the adult. We can see here that the employers are unethical as they are trying to cut costs and manipulate the minors by recruiting them. The third supporting detail is, working in textile factories would not need an advanced level of education or expertise. Hence, the minors would do the same task as the adult. This is also unethical as the employers are exploiting the children for their own benefits. The last supporting detail is, as an example, in cotton harvesting tasks, employers prefer to use miners as they have a tiny hand and more delicate in doing the job and would not damage the crop. The employers are trying to justify their action by saying that children are more delicate in doing their job than the adult, which is not the whole truth. That is all from me for the main idea 2. I will pass to the next presenter.
Besides, the impact of the fast fashion industry can also be seen in the environmental aspect that lead to our third impact, which is it affects the local water supplies, which cause water scarcity and harmful waterways. According to the World Bank, water pollution was primarily contributed by the textile and clothing industry due to excessive water consumption. This means that the industry heavily relies on water in their production process, starting from watering the cotton crops until the process of dyeing raw fibers. The WWF stated that 73% of the world cotton is cultivated on natural drainage plantations, which will decrease the accessible supply of water in the long run. Not only that, a tremendous amount of water is used while decreasing people's water supply. This is when the typical cotton t-shirt requires 2,700 liters of water, which is enough to last an individual for 900 days. There is also a report made that emphasizes on the fact that the fashion industry is responsible for 7% loss of global ground and drinking water due to high water usage, particularly in China and India's water-stressed manufacturing regions. This shows that the fashion industry really affecting the water supplies that were needed by us, humans and other living needs, which should be the world's top priority. In fact, there is a prediction that stated that by the year of 2030, water scarcity is expected to displace between 24 million and 700 million people because of this issue along with the existing climate change scenario. Furthermore, all of the amounts of water used for this industry will produce bad wastewater, which will usually then be dumped into ditches, streams or rivers. Due to the wastewater released, the textile finishing and dyeing process generate around 20% of the world's wastewater, draining the region's limited groundwater supplies and polluting adjacent water sources. The poorly managed wastewater that seeps into the local groundwater has the possibility to harm the entire ecosystem. For instance, waterways in Bangladesh are so toxic that many individuals who go close contact with these polluted waters die before reaching the age of 50. This is totally disastrous and should be taken seriously.
The next point is the high energy consumption in the fashion industry contributes to high carbon footprint, which influenced by the source of energy used. Fast fashion will be considered backward when it leads to the negative effects to the society, health and environment. Fast fashion leads to carbon footprint due to the two materials that produce the most greenhouse gases per unit, which are textiles and aluminium. It should be noted that fast fashion involves a textile industry. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change asserts that the textile industry is responsible for 10% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. For instance, textile production in China is dependent on coal-based energy and has a 40% greater carbon footprint than textiles produced in Turkey or Europe. Labels, tags, and plastics or paper bags are just a few of the numerous packaging and accessories used for fashion items. Due to the short product lifespan, these resources are quickly depleted. It gets more worse because the fashion industry's present economic model is built on rising production and sales, quick manufacturing, poor product quality, and brief product life cycles, which result in unsustainable consumption, rapid material flow, massive waste, and significant environmental effects. Fashion companies operate a high carbon transportation network as a result of their reliance on intricate supply chains that span the globe and just-in-time production cycles, which result in the development of clothing that ultimately finds its way into stores all over the world from raw materials that move from one nation to another. The global fashion industry is responsible for 10% of the carbon emissions in the atmosphere, with significant emissions from both production and its supply chain. In 2015, the industry's estimated 1.2 billion tons of greenhouse gas emissions from the production of fibers and textiles exceeded the combined carbon footprint of international travel and maritime shipping. Last but not least, the public's addiction due to globalization driving ever faster production cycles, the proliferation of online social media featuring the latest styles to constantly changing fashion incites demand for higher carbon producing modes of transport like air freight, which frequently replace fewer polluting forms of transport. The consumer's desire to stay in style necessitates a steady stream of new fashions because as soon as a trend becomes popular, it loses its allure and inspires trendsetters to look for the next big thing. Hence, the global supply chain and manufacturing processes used in the modern fashion cycle consume enormous amounts of raw materials and produce a significant amount of carbon footprint. In conclusion, fast fashion has negative effects that influence the quality of the water supplies and the environment due to the carbon footprint it produces along the process. Thus, it will cause a water and environment pollution that will affect the life quality of the people if it is still ongoing in the future.
Thank you, Nabila. I am SHAHADAH and I will be the next to explain about the fifth impact of fast fashion, which is synthetic fabric efficiently reduced production costs while processing time, while also causing microplastic contamination. This point is according to March in 2022. In general, the fast fashion business is a very active sector of the economy that places a strong emphasis on creating garment lines that simultaneously reflect public and the current trends. Therefore, producing products on a large scale is their priority. Lay in 2020 states that manufacturers such as Zara, H&M, Shein, and Topshop frequently use materials that may be of poorer quality such as polyester, which is comprised of plastic and tends to emit more carbon dioxide than cotton. The use of polyester fabric not only causes carbon emissions but also causes water pollution. The European Environment Agency in 2022 issued a statement stating that one well-known source of microplastic in the environment is the wearing and washing of textiles made of synthetic plastic fibers. Furthermore, a 2017 study by the International Union for Conservation of Nature IUCN also found that 35% of the minuscule pieces of non-biodegradable plastic found in the ocean are the result of washing synthetic textiles like polyester. Through drainage, the microplastic particles will get into the marine ecosystem where they can disrupt aquatic organisms, nervous systems, and move up the food chain, endangering human health. In brief, plastic elements found in fabric or textiles used for the production of clothing by the fast fashion industry can harm the universality of the environment, including its inhabitants, which are the living things such as humans, animals, and also aquatic life. In dealing with the widespread harmful impact, a seminar co-hosted by UNEP and the non-profit Global Fashion Agenda GFA on circular systems for a net positive fashion industry brought business executives to explore the industry transition to a circular economy with less waste, less pollution, more reuse, and more recycling. Through this initiative, all parties, including those in the fashion industry and the general public, can learn about the sensible steps including recycling old clothing, mending worn out and defective items, and also handling waste clothing responsibly. I hope my explanation of the fifth impact is clear and understandable. I leave it to the next presenter to describe the sixth environmental impact of fashion industry.
Hi, my name is PUTERI and SURAYA with the HISHAM, and I'll be briefing on the sixth main point, which shows that the significant proportion of fast fashion enterprises run their factories on fossil fuels as in accordance with March in 2022. So you might be asking to yourself, what on earth are fossil fuels? What fossil fuels basically does is when they are burnt, a huge amount of carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, is released into the atmosphere. It is then trapped in the atmosphere by greenhouse gases, and it leads to creating a global warming as claimed by Clean Earth in 2022. So based on a journal article written by the Changing Markets Foundation in 2021, the extraction of fossil fuels such as crude oil, gas, and even coal is required for the creation of synthetic fibers. Synthetics are also really hard to produce as they are immensely energy intensive, implying that additional fuel must be extracted and used in order to power production facilities. In the United States, for instance, for the last 60 years or so, apparel has gone from costing 1.5 times the price of other items in the average consumer basket to costing less than half the price, indicating that fossil fuels are a constitute of a basic key piece in fast fashion. Lastly, the fast fashion industry should be held accountable as it is responsible for roughly 10% of global emissions, fueling severe climate change implications. If businesses continue to emit enormous amounts of air pollution, the world will face catastrophic droughts, agricultural restrictions, forced migration, and other ecosystem stability concerns. So that's all from me and my explanation for the 6th main point. Thank you so much, Dr. Alice, for making it this far into the presentation. I will be passing on to the next presenter. Thank you. Bye.
PFAS.
PFAS are one of the most threatening chemicals ever invented.
Now that we're finally becoming aware that these chemicals exist, that we've been exposed without our knowledge for decades and decades.
PFAS pose a serious risk to health and the environment, and worst of all, they never degrade. For this reason, they're also called forever chemicals, and they have an impact on practically all of us. They do a brilliant job of repelling water, grease and dirt, superior to any other substance, which is why nearly every branch of industry uses them. We find them in everything from non-stick cookware, artificial leather, furniture, fire retardants, cleaning liquids, electronics, makeup, cars, pesticides, soils, drinking water, and our food. They are literally everywhere.
We move to the main ideas number 7, which are long-term health is endangered by PFAS exposure. Little was known about how per and polyfluoroalkyl substances or PFAS might affect blood pressure level. Despite the fact that even at low levels, they have been shown to have negative health impact, including a link to cardiovascular risk, like impaired blood vessel function and high cholesterol. In the recent study, the women whom are black, Chinese, Japanese, and white middle-aged have been recruited from health center in Boston, Pittsburgh, Southeast Michigan, Los Angeles, Oakland, and California for the study of women's health across the nation multi-pollutant study in examining the link between blood concentration of 7 PFAS and the high blood pressure risk. Women in this study were tracked particularly annually from 1999 to 2017 since they were 45 to 56 years old and had normal blood pressure when the study began. In fact, the researcher focused on this age group since menopause is a time when a woman's risk for high blood pressure and other cardiovascular concerns start to climb. Result from this study imply that PFAS could play an underappreciated role in women's risk for heart and blood vessel illnesses, since high blood pressure was found to be significantly prone among those with high PFAS in blood compared to those with lower level.
Lastly, I'm Suhana. Ezrina will talk about one more health-related issue. According to Chen in 2022, many of the chemicals used to handle clothes have been related to the cancer, developmental problems, and skin irritation in humans. This is proven by studies from Chen in 2020, in which asthma and other respiratory problems may be triggered by chlorine bleach, which is used for whitening and stain removal. Other than that, azo dyes may easily rub off on clothes when these come in direct touch with skin and they decompose and release chemicals known as aromatic amines, which several of these aromatic amines have been linked to an increased risk of cancer. Moreover, the investigation by McNeil found that out of 141 garments tested, 89 contain phthalates and nanophenol ethoxylates, detergent-like substance with the potential to lead to widespread released into aquatic environment. And azo dyes, commonly used to treat textile and leathers, can release cancer-causing compounds. As mentioned by Wilson, studies that have revealed that phthalates, which are used to soften plastic coatings, may have an effect on reproduction, whereas heavy metals, which are used in dyes, have been discovered to be very poisonous and can cause harm to the nervous system. In conclusion, it is clear that the practice of fast fashion has a negative influence on the environment, and it is likely that this practice will have the biggest impact on humans in the long run, since the production method is indeed wasteful and insanely dangerous. People who live in the environment, as well as the wildlife that inhabits this area, are subjected to a significant amount of harm when factories release harmful chemicals directly into rivers rather than cleaning the water first. It is time for customers to have a deeper awareness of the negative impact that wearing dangerous apparel has, not only on the environment but also on ourselves.
As a conclusion, we can conclude that fast fashion is considered as a backward. This is because a number of social and environmental issues are brought up by the fast fashion model, which affects the society, health, and the environment of the globe as a whole. It is challenging to change business operations because the fashion industry continues to face intense cost burdens and competitions. However, it is crucial that the industry as a whole, from the production of fiber to retail, takes responsibility for its environmental effects, including water, energy, and chemical use, CO2 emissions, and waste production.